Cam fans, Cole fans, pull up for a second because this one is messy in a very grown man business way. The headline people are talking about right now is that Cameron has been blocked from receiving any potential payout in his lawsuit involving J. Cole because of an old legal debt that's still sitting on his record. So even if he wins this new case, he might not actually be the first person to touch that money. Let's walk through the story from the top. Cameron filed a lawsuit saying, basically, I did business with J. Cole around that record we did together, and the business wasn't handled the way I expected. The core of his claim is that he contributed his verse and image to the track. There were supposed to be certain terms around credit, payment, maybe a return favor or appearance, and he feels like those terms were not honored once the song came out and started doing numbers. From Cam's point of view, this is classic. I stood on business, you didn't. You asked for the feature, I delivered. Now the splits, the credit, the favors we discussed have to line up with what was promised. When that doesn't happen, artists have two options: air it out publicly and hope pressure fixes it, or take it to court and let a judge look at the paperwork. Cam chose the courtroom. Now here's where it gets interesting. When you sue for money, you're not just saying, I want respect. You're saying, if I win, I want a check, I want royalties, I want my cut. Cam's lawsuit is seeking a payout tied to what he believes that collaboration is worth. But the twist is this. There's already somebody else out there who beat Cameron in court before this J. Cole situation ever started. That person has a judgment against him, basically a court saying, you owe this amount, and they've gone the extra step of putting a legal claim, a lien, on money he might receive. So think of it like this. Imagine you've got a direct deposit coming, tax refund, bonus, whatever, but you also owe back money on something official. Before that deposit ever hits your hands, that old debt can step in front of you and say, excuse me, I'm first. That's what a lien does. It doesn't stop you from winning money in a new case. It just means you are not priority number one when the funds get distributed. That's why you're seeing talk about Cam being blocked from a potential payout. It doesn't mean he can't win his lawsuit. It doesn't mean no money will ever be paid. It means that on paper, there's already a debt collector sitting in the front row with their hand out saying, if anything comes in with his name on it, I get mine first. Now, zoom back out to the bigger hip-hop business picture. On one level, this is a creative dispute. Did J. Cole and his camp honor whatever agreement they had with Cam around that record? Was he properly credited, properly cleared, properly paid? Did Cole owe him a verse back or a show appearance? And if so, was that delivered? That's the artistic and contractual question. On a second level, this is a money flow dispute. How much has that song, that project, that verse actually generated? What are the streams, the syncs, the performance revenue, the back end? If Cam is right that he's owed more, he wants an accounting, actual numbers, not vibes. But the third level is where the grown man reality kicks in. Even if Cam wins level 1 and level 2, there's an older bill waiting on the side, and that bill legally has the right to take its chunk before he sees the rest. From a fan perspective, this almost feels like a punchline. Cam finally sues and wins, and somebody else eats first. But from a business perspective, it's a crystal clear lesson. Judgments don't go away just because you move on to a new bag. Old cases follow you into new checks. It also creates a weird contrast in the public eye. On one hand, Cam is absolutely within his rights to demand that his contributions to a collab with a superstar are respected. Artists getting shorted on credit and splits is a real, long-standing issue in the game. On the other hand, the existence of an unpaid judgment from a previous situation lets people say, so you're checking someone else on their business practices, but you still haven't fully handled your own. That doesn't automatically make him wrong about the J. Cole case. You can be right in one dispute and still behind on another, but it muddies the optics. It reminds everybody that your reputation isn't just about what you say in interviews. It's about what's in your paperwork. On the J. Cole side, you'll notice it's been pretty quiet. No long IG lives, no bar-for-bar diss, no big public back and forth. That's usually a sign that the lawyers are steering this one. When contracts and masters and royalty statements are involved, the people who really matter are the ones reading the fine print, not the ones reading the comments. And that's another important piece. This entire situation is going to live or die on contracts, emails, and signatures, not on who's more legendary, not on who went harder on the track, not on who the culture feels is right. If Cole's team has clean paperwork showing what Cam agreed to, that's one thing. If Cam's side can show that the usage went beyond what he signed off on, that's another. The lien doesn't decide that. The lien just decides where the money goes if he wins. For every artist and creator watching this, this is a big flashing sign. Don't just get excited about a feature. Get clear on the paperwork. Don't just say we good, we family. Put the terms in writing. And if you lose a case and owe somebody money, understand that judgment can and will pop back up later if you ever get a new legal win. Let's talk about what this means practically for Cam. If he loses the J. Cole lawsuit, the lien doesn't really come into play because there's no payout to attach to. The old judgment holder still has their claim, but there's nothing to bite into from this new case. If he wins, the court will determine damages or the parties will settle. Either way, that money doesn't necessarily just wire straight to his personal account. It goes into the system, and from there, that previous judgment has a legal right to take its cut first. Only after that debt is satisfied would any remaining balance flow down to Cameron himself. So when you hear blocked from receiving potential payout, think rerouted, not erased. It's more like the money gets redirected through an old bill on its way to him. From a narrative standpoint, this is a wild collision of eras. You've got Cameron, a certified Harlem legend who came up in a time where a lot of deals were handshake, backroom, we'll figure it out later. And you've got J. Cole, a superstar in the streaming era where everything is tracked and logged and monetized down to the fraction of a cent. This case is sitting right in the middle of that shift, from informal code of the streets to formal code of the courts. And honestly, the biggest takeaway is not who can we clown, it's what can we learn. If you're an artist, a podcaster, a YouTuber, a producer, anybody collaborating with other people, handle your old obligations so they don't haunt your new victories. Make sure every collab has clear terms, credit, payment, deliverables up front. Understand that the legal system doesn't care who had more hits, it cares who has more documents. And if you're just watching as a fan, don't get so wrapped up in the Stan Wars that you miss the real story. This is what it looks like when music, money, and the law intersect in 2025. It's not just bars and beats, it's liens, judgments, and contracts. We'll see how this plays out. Whether Cam sees any of that money after the old debt is cleared, whether Cole's team fights this to the end or settles quietly, and whether this makes artists more careful about both the deals they sign and the debts they leave hanging. If you're here for breakdowns that actually unpack the business behind the headline and not just the drama, you're in the right place. Thanks for watching. Do me a favor, hit like on this video, drop your thoughts in the comments, and make sure you subscribe to the Short Clips Podcast on YouTube so you don't miss the next deep dive into the stories the culture can't stop talking about.